Okay, we're rolling. Can you describe your interests in and your experience in music, very briefly?
Well, I teach adult evening. I have taught a lot of adult evening classes in fiddle and step dancing and singing, and I currently have a choir I've taken for the last 10 years, and I also run fiddle retreats or fiddle courses on an island on the west coast of Scotland, and teach. Yeah, most of my teaching is involved with adults.
So, why did you choose to be an educator within the music profession?
I don't know that it's something I particularly consciously chose. I just seem to have bumped into me very frequently somehow, and I ended up becoming more confident in regards to teaching. Started off with taking a year out actually when I was quite young, but that was with young people, and it's just never let me go. And also I think the Scots Music Group in Edinburgh, which is an organisation which has attracted many adults to a traditional music programme, has been really a fantastic support for me as a teacher. It's meant that there's something local classes every week for 20 years now in the area.
So how do you draw on your interests and experience in music as a facilitator of adult learning?
Well, how do I draw on my interest?
And your experience?
Well, what I tend to do is find myself in a situation now that I feel I can read quite carefully the people's needs that come into the room, largely on asking them themselves what they feel, where they feel they're at, and what kind of support they feel they would like. At least that's how it works in the fiddle workshops. And people even bring a tune, so I'm not teaching by ear, because I find that the memory for adults can be, people are coming wanting to develop their musical selves, and trying to get them to learn things only by ear is, you can do that to a certain degree, but a lot of adults feel blocked that way. And if they were brought up learning classical music as young people, then previously they aren't used to learning by ear. So they bring something that they do know by ear, and then I work with the rest of the group. But the experience I've brought with it, I suppose, is from having had fantastic teachers myself, and a really rigorous classical music training, and then a long apprenticeship in traditional music as well for about 20 years. So just throwing all those things together, and an interest in what makes people tick, and I very much enjoy teaching actually. Mm-hmm.
Who would you say was your main client group? Specifically thinking of the fiddle retreats.
I think it's often working adults between the ages of about 40 and 60. So they have some disposable income, and they also are taking just a couple of days out of their working lives rather than it being a full week. So mostly working adults, I would say.
And how do they get in touch with you?
They get in touch through the website, my website, and I also have leaflets and brochures that I put out at various fiddle camps and fiddle classes that are happening in Glasgow and Edinburgh.
Why do they think they get in touch with you?
Well, I think what I offer actually is something a little bit different, because it's a bijou course. It's a small course for up to 8 participants. I'm supporting every player in an area that they feel they may need support in, and also bringing the whole group into that area. So we're looking at the basics of technique, and it's a tradition and technique combination, and the technique's taught quite confidently, I feel, and also it's it's a neutral technique class, so it's not relating to any specific style of music. And I think that adults find that stimulating to know that if they change a tiny action in their wrist or in their fingers or in their knuckles or relax in the shoulder, or even also looking at singing at the same time and developing a more rounded relationship to say the violin, exploring voice in that as well, or even movement. I think adults are very responsive to that.
So how would you describe your role with your learners?
I'm facilitating. I'm trying to support the next step that they want to make, and I'm also trying to facilitate an atmosphere within the group so that there's peer support in the group. That's really important, that the group feels as if they have a relationship with each other, that the room becomes a body within itself. That's something that interests me quite a lot as well.
And are there any approaches to teaching and learning which you find work particularly well with adults?
Well, I've had really amazingly positive feedback for these courses.
I think you touched on it when you were talking about the learning by ear. It's something that adults don't necessarily find easy.
No. Ask me the question again.
Are there any approaches to teaching and learning which you find work particularly well with adults?
Right. Well, I think there are actually. At the moment, I'm exploring this work of interplay, which has really thrown up lots of suggestions to me that the mixture of the power of fun, although also and improvising without it trying to scare off adults. So it's really finding the incremental ways of adults accessing their own innate creativity, and music or fiddle tunes come into it. I think adults respond really well to gently being encouraged to stretch their boundaries, to engage with each other. And I have a mixed ability group, and nobody's ever complained about it, and I think that's because the ones who are really strong find other ways of responding and supporting the player who is learning, who's brought a tune, and other people can then learn harmonies to that tune, and then the better players, they find that they get a chance to perform, maybe that they're ready to do that, and we explore all aspects of music making within and out with, and I think adults find it surprising and quite delightful that music can have so many sides to it.
And what are your expectations for your learners?
Well, I don't have expectations of them. I find I'm not particularly, my expectations are not high in terms of, I want them to have achieved anything in terms of their technique or their playing. I think what I expect is more for myself, is to do with what I would like to have found coming together over the weekend is a opening out, an opening up, and I expect my students to be surprised at what they can do. Yeah.
And in what way do your learners benefit from their learning experience with you?
You have to ask them that.
Have you had any feedback?
I've had lots of feedback you can find on my website, which is testimonials for the Lismore Fiddle Retreats, which is www.mairicampbell.co.uk.
Are you part of an organisation or a network which supports your work as a music facilitator of adult learning?
I'm part of the ESTA, European String Teachers Association, I've been part of that for many years. The Scots Music Group, although there's not been a lot of, there's opportunities to do teacher training in that. And there's the Trad Music Forum, which is a really fantastic resource for what's going on in a way for networking with teachers. And they put on the annual events conference, which is wonderful for getting to know who else is out there and what folk are up to.
Are there any skills which you feel you need to develop to support your future work as a facilitator of adult learning?
Well, I am actually currently on a professional development kind of route with a method called interplay, and this I think is going to be very helpful and useful in the area that I'm mentioning about exploring improvisation and spontaneous music making and movement